Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And how are you, Miss Courtney?
I am messing with my Zoom. Even though I just told you I was ready. I'm fine. I've had a lot of fun things happen this week.
Good.
I went into Shakespeare in the Park like I told you I was going to.
Yes.
And it was just a wild Wednesday. We met at, I don't know if you've ever been to Crave Fish Bar. I think it's relatively new, like in the past 5 years or so. I don't know if you would have been. But they do like this oyster happy hour.
Oh, cute.
From 4 to 6 every day. And love oysters. And so does Vanessa. Vanessa's home with. And so we got there and we had booked a reservation for 5:30 and we're like, we're just gonna like push through and we're gonna make it till 6 because you can't order after 6. You can only order 12 at a time. And so we ended up like getting 2 of each East Coast to try and just shoving them down our throats so that we could try, so we could get the ones we really liked in another order. And then we both had Bloody Marys. And then I was like, well, we have to try the oyster shots because it's all oyster themed. So then we each had 2 oyster shots. And then we got a case of White Claw and took it with us to see Richard III. And it was excellent. And it was Denai, I think is how you say her name. She's from Marvel. She's from Black Panther Endgame.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And a second since I watched it, I think she plays the sister. That I don't remember. I don't remember who played which role. There's 2 main girls in Black Panther.
Well, there's 3 really.
Well, there's 3, but like
there's Lupita Nyong'o, and then
right.
Shuri is played by Letitia Wright. So that's the sister. So it's Okoye is the one who is played by Denai. Yes. What is Denai's last name?
So she played Richard III in the show.
Denai Jakasai.
Yes. And she did a phenomenal job. It was so well done. And that was my first time seeing Shakespeare in the Park. And we went on ASL night, like hard of hearing night.
Oh,
so
nice.
The people translating in the stands. And then they had a lot of it translated on stage because some of the, like, I think it was 2 of the actors were deaf. And so they had all of their lines translated because they weren't speaking. And it was so good. It was so nice, like, to see all of the representation and everything in the show.
I love that.
And it was phenomenal. It felt so nice out. It is nothing like today where I am melting. But it was beautiful out. There was a nice breeze. And it started at 8, so it was like dark anyways most of the time. It was so fun. So how are you doing?
I am doing so well. What did I get? Let's see. I told you guys I was going to see Thor. It was wonderful. I really, really liked it. I know that you have not seen it yet, so I won't talk about it.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. And our field trip for camp last week, we went to the planetarium.
It looked so fun.
It was. But the kids had more fun than I did, which was great because at the History Museum, the kids did not have more fun than I did. But the kids had more fun at the planetarium than I did because I got motion sickness from we went to the planetarium because they had this magic treehouse presentation where like you were with Jack and Annie going on a magic treehouse adventure to discover things about space. So you're in the globe of the planetarium where you normally see the stars, but there's like this 3D movie that is like Star Tours-esque moving screens around you for this movie. And I went to the planetarium having only had my coffee and nothing else to eat that day. And I was like, oh, I'm going to vomit. Great. I'm the chaperone. Cool.
So it was kind of like one of those like star globes, but like IMAX on the inside.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never seen that.
It was really cool, and I wish I would have been prepared for it, because if I had known that that was like the kind of thing I was going to be watching, I probably would have like made sure to, I don't know, shove some crackers in my mouth or something, but I was not prepared.
You know, it happens sometimes.
It does. It does. But yeah, so it's been so hot.
I am so angry about the heat. It's really, I'm like, I don't know if any of you can see or tell on the YouTube, but I'm like sweaty and I'm wearing my glasses because my allergies are jacked up. So I'm like, I have a nice glare going for YouTube.
Cute.
Just,
Yeah, no, I'm just hot. That's my real feeling. And also I pulled a muscle in my back today just by sitting up in a chair, because I'm officially old enough that I can pull a muscle in my back by sitting in a chair. And so I'm not in a great mood. But you know what will cheer me up? Knowing how I can be spiritually AF this week.
no, that is fantastic thought. You just give me one moment to get myself together, and I will give you your spiritual words of
Did you forget to have the cards ready?
Of course I didn't forget. Of course I didn't forget. I never forget anything.
I can read some text messages that would prove otherwise.
Shh. Don't talk about it. You don't talk about that.
I almost started singing We Don't Talk About Bruno, but Disney likes to sue people, so.
They do, and I also still haven't seen that.
Well, that is a whole other problem.
No, I'm a lot of. Oh my gosh! I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I am really struggling today. Are you ready?
I'm so ready. I'm so ready.
This is not as spiritual as I'd like to be, but fine.
Okay.
Gossip dies when it hits wise ears. Basically, don't be gossiping.
Yeah, I'm not about that life. I'm going to shit talk all of the time.
Yeah. I also will be gossiping, so
Thanks for nothing. I met a friend's husband last week, and her and I went off about one of our students who had done something ridiculous. And he was like, "Who are you guys talking about?" And I told him, and I go, "Things that you have to understand if you'd like to be friends with me. I will shit talk 12-year-olds with the same veracity that I shit talk adults. Just so you know."
Mm-hmm.
There's no distinction. If you do something messed up, I'm gonna say something.
Right. As you should. It's the way it should be.
Yep. So what I would like to talk about today, instead of 12-year-olds,
yes,
is season 1, episode 19 of Stargate SG1. The title of this episode is called There But for the Grace of God, which I know
there's a country song that sings.
I'm sure there is.
I think it was Martina McBride.
I believe that. I believe it's from a classic poem or something that I would probably know if I had looked up my trivia before I sat down, which I didn't. So if you just bear with me for 1 second as I slowly stall while trying to navigate the app on my phone and talk.
Well, that's what we do. We like to stall when we don't have anything.
When we are so beyond unprepared that it is.
So beyond.
And
I felt so prepared. I even turned to my notes page and everything.
Oh, good. There is no trivia except for that there was also a MacGyver episode called that. But I know that, but I know that that's a reference to.
Oh, of course, but it's in quotes.
It is most widely attributed to John Bradford, who said it upon seeing criminals who were being led to their execution in 1553. Bradford himself, whom many credit with the phrase, was later executed for heresy.
Because he was gossiping.
It's a paraphrase from 1 Corinthians 15, 8 through 10. But by the grace of God, I am what I am.
Oh, yes, I've heard that.
Yes. So there, but for the grace of God, go I, is a paraphrase of that said by John Bradford while watching people executed for heresy, which only vaguely feels like it has something to do with this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I'm not really sure.
I like kind of get it because in order to save the world, Daniel had to watch the world die. Like, I totally get it.
Okay, I guess that's true. Oh, it was a Keith Urban song. It's called But for the Grace of God.
Okay. 1553 heresy trial before Keith Urban.
Well, each their own.
Just slightly. It was rated 8.6 stars, which is the highest of the season.
Okay. I don't think it's the highest. I don't think it's the lowest. I think 8.1 would have been fair.
I don't know.
You don't have
I
feelings?
don't know. I don't know because I think that it's the first time that I feel like we actually genuinely set something up that we might follow through on.
I don't know where we're going, obviously, because I haven't seen anything else, but I definitely had that feeling watching it that this really felt like it was going to be part of something and not just another episode in Stargate. Yeah. So I do think that's why I think it should have been rated highly, but I just don't think it was the highest.
That's fair. It came out on February 20th, 1998. The number one song was Nice and Slow by Usher, which once again, I do not know.
I love Usher. I saw him live. Did I tell you I saw him live in New Orleans for free one time?
Yes, I do remember this.
So nice.
I do love Usher. I just don't know that song.
I bet it was on the same album that our song was on. He sampled one of our works at the office, and so we have a portion of a comeback from Usher 1998.
Okay, well, I do know every word to Confessions Part 2.
Okay, don't be. That's like a rite of passage. Like,
right.
That song came out. Know it.
Yeah. But I probably shouldn't have been listening to Usher.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Sorry. The number one movie was unfortunately still Titanic.
Yeah.
And it probably will be for the rest of my life.
I was about to say for the rest of our lives.
On that day, I couldn't find anything really super exciting that happened, but we were in the midst of the Winter Olympics.
Oh, were we winning?
Actually, Tara Lipinski won her gold medal for figure skating that day.
Nice. I bet I watched that because that was right after we moved into our new house. And I remember around that time period, I was only watching the Olympics because we didn't have cable or anything. We just had the local channels. And that's when you could watch Olympics on local channels. And I always watched the figure skating. It was my favorite part.
I remember as a young child having those little mini Scholastic Fair biography kind of books on Michelle Kwan and Nancy Kerrigan. I was a little obsessed with figure skating. So I definitely watched this.
So you watched the Nancy Kerrigan Dancing with the Stars then recently, 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
Was that the season that it was all athletes? Because there was one season. No. I lied. I did watch Nancy. She was not on the all athletes season. I did watch her season.
I think that was the season that Brittany from Glee was on it. And
yes. I have watched every season of Dancing with the Stars, except that one random all athletes season because it was right when I first moved to Thailand.
I feel like I watched that one.
but that's literally the only one I haven't. Speaking of Dancing with the Stars, they just announced that Alfonso is co-hosting with Tyra Banks for the season that's coming up. That's only on Disney Plus.
Interesting.
People were really mad about Tyra. They thought she was a terrible host because she was. But she's also like executive producing it, so they kind of need her money, so they can't fire her.
Right.
But then the ratings got so bad that they moved it to Disney Plus only. And then people got so mad that it was only going to be on Disney Plus. So now they're like trying to like do things to like make sure people want to watch it. And so Alfonso Rivera just got added as a co-host
for him,
right?
Because he is a phenomenal host. Interesting. That's interesting though. I didn't hear any of those things.
I'm up on all of the weird reality TV gossip. That's what I do.
I know.
This episode was directed by David Worry Smith. This was his first of 11 episodes. He does not have a ton of credits, but he has a really weird mix of sci-fi and teen drama.
Oh, I love it.
Because some of the things that he's the most known for are Earth Final Conflict, The Outer Limits, Andromeda.
Familiar with the last two.
Naturally Sadie.
Familiar with that one.
Life with Derek.
Oh my gosh. I was in love with Derek.
I felt really torn that whole time because I absolutely believed that Derek and what's her name should be together, even though they were step siblings. And then that made me feel uncomfortable that I thought that. And so like I couldn't watch that show very long.
No, I was in love with Derek. I watched all of it.
And then the ultimate crossover between teen shows and sci-fi, he directed quite a few episodes of Strange Days at Lake Halsey High.
That sounds
which we
about right.
have talked about on this podcast before because no one else knew that show existed but the two of us.
But us. I loved that show though.
Yeah. So weird.
Like, you do you, boo.
Right. The story was by David Kemper and the teleplay was by Robert C. Cooper. Robert C. Cooper is one of our returning writers. David Kemper is not. This is his only episode of Stargate, and he is known for very, very few things. Again, not a lot of credits, but the credits that he does have are actually pretty much all in the sci-fi arena. He wrote for Farscape. His very first writing credit was on Star Trek: The Next Generation. So
we were just talking about at the office today how so many like people who wrote for Star Trek also are like writers for Stargate. Like they just cross over so much.
They do. And I think this episode has a very the feel to what it was like. Obviously there's the overall plot and where it's going in the story, but the inspiration behind the story feels more Star Trek than Stargate to me.
Interesting.
So,
again, still haven't seen Star Trek. Still don't know. But I trust your opinion.
The other night, I was out with my boyfriend and some of our coworkers, and we were the only ones there who aren't parents. And at one point, everyone started talking about things that their kids have been doing. And he and I started looking at Star Trek memes.
You know, that really feels like life, though. I mean, I don't know anything about Star Trek, but I think I'd rather look at Star Trek memes than, like, have children, for sure. Like, no questions. No questions.
Yeah, so I only kind of know what I'm talking about.
That's all right.
Yeah. The blurb for this episode, which, once again, does kind of interfere with the first half of the episode. No, because partially because I'd already seen the episode and partially because I read the blurb. I don't know how you reacted to the beginning of the episode.
So I will say I read the first like half of a sentence of the blurb because I couldn't remember what episode we were on. Because my memory is real bad this week. And so
why don't you just play next episode?
Because I was watching it I watched it on my Netflix app last week, and then I watched it on my computer, this week. And so all of it was, even though they're the same account, it didn't like look, it didn't play right. It was trying to play Tin Man again. And then I was like, I know I've watched Tin Man.
Yeah, okay.
So normally I would just push next episode.
Yeah. So it says Daniel Jackson is pulled into an alternate reality where he sees Earth being invaded by the Goa'uld. The whole putting alternate reality in the blurb kind of ruins half the episode.
Yes, I read that part.
Yeah. Okay. So then it was ruined for you too, because I literally was trying to think. I was like, if I didn't know that this was an alternate reality, I don't know what I would think is happening.
I'm sorry to tell you, I also cannot say
Cool.
that I would know. But I will say, even though I did know what was happening, because of how mirrors are used so much in symbolism, I would have assumed it was either an alternate reality or a different, like a stylistically still an alternate reality, but it could be when they're like everyone's consisting on the same plane at different times type thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like a pocket dimension.
Yes, kind of like that.
Okay.
So it's like maybe it's a dimension, maybe it's like a.
Well, I mean,
it's not horror, but
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like the first time that I can think of really truly like using a mirror as a travel thing existed was Alice's. Like Alice's Through the Looking Glass.
Sure,
Like
the Looking Glass, yeah.
Like mirrors taking you to a different world is not a new thought by any means.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't like, I think I would have figured out that it was an alternate reality, but
it was less confusing than the Tin Man. That's for sure.
Yes, for sure.
So the team enters this new gate room, and everything in the place seems to have been destroyed by the Goa'uld, but not recently.
Right.
It feels like it was quite some time ago. So Daniel and Sam go off to explore something because, of course, they do. And Teal'c and Jack see this symbol, and Teal'c's like, we out. We gotta bounce.
This isn't it.
And Jack was like, why? And he was like, that's the Kareshni. And he was like, what does that mean? And he was like, it's a symbol that is left by a Goa'uld world destroyers to warn the other Goa'uld and the Jaffa that the whole planet has been destroyed. And in your planet's terms, the surface is covered in radiation.
Yeah.
So, just like casual destroyer of worlds.
Right. To get away from that.
But then, of course, Daniel has found a lab full of cultural artifacts, and we know how Daniel gets when he finds cultural artifacts. And so, Jack...
have you not seen Aladdin? I think Aladdin came out in 93. And so, you could have seen this. When you take things from the Cave of Wonders, it's bad.
I wasn't even worried about his film expertise. I was worried about the 2 years of missions that have already gone wrong because he couldn't stop.
Well, even at a baseline, though, he started taking stuff away. I was like, you can't take these artifacts. This is not how it goes.
Daniel is like, no, but look at all this cool stuff. And Jack's like, I literally could care less. We're leaving.
He's like,
Daniel's like, of course you don't care. Let me just put all of these random artifacts in my bag. And then he picks one up, and there's this weird electronic sound. And he just sees a weird mirror portal, and he goes, cool, let me touch it.
And I was like, don't you know about mirrors? Again, Alice Through the Looking Glass was in the 60s, I believe. And that's way before now.
Well, okay.
And I'm sure there have been horror movies before now.
Older than that. The book is from the 1850s. The book is not.
Right. And I mean, he does read, so I guess we can hold that against him too. But I was like, mirrors are portals and they're bad.
Yeah. So Daniel, for being the smartest guy in the room, is also quite literally always the dumbest guy in the room.
Correct.
And he touches the mirror. And the next thing we know, He is now back in the same room he was just in, except for no one else is there.
So I will say, okay. So at first, even though I like vaguely read that it was an alternate reality,
Yeah.
I thought maybe he went back in time and it was like, this is what could have happened, and if he stayed there, they would have gotten back to the time he was at. So I thought it was like a wibbly wobbly time jump, and it was not.
It was
But
not.
that is what I thought at first watching it, even though I
Okay.
knew it was alternate reality.
That's fair. But so no one is there. And he's like, oh man, they must have just left without me. Which, no, of course they didn't.
Right.
Like they would never. They have never. The last time you got kidnapped, they didn't.
Because they didn't. They thought you were dead.
Right. And also like they got brainwashed into going back. Like, and he's like, oh man, I hate when this happens. I do too. You get kidnapped and left behind way too much.
Way too much. I was like, why is it always Daniel? Like, I guess he is the one that knows how to like speak to people, and like truly that's how he's gotten out of everything, is talking his way through it. So like
Yeah.
it makes sense the others would not have that same charisma and knowledge that he has, but it's always Daniel. I'm so sorry. It's always Daniel.
Yeah. So he dials Earth, and then it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm just gonna go home. He comes out into the gate room, and the entire military is just standing there ready to shoot him.
Yeah.
And he's like, what is happening? And they're like, identify yourself. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, you know me.
Right.
Everyone knows me.
And then General Hammond walks in, only he's not General Hammond.
He's Colonel Hammond.
He's Colonel Hammond. And Daniel is incredibly confused. And this frustrated me a little bit because I was like, you didn't figure out right in this moment that something bigger was wrong. Like he just kept arguing that they knew him. Like clearly they don't. Something else is happening.
And the fact that Hammond's not a general, like...
Right. This is not the world's most elaborate April Fool's joke. Like, they don't know you.
Right.
So they arrest him, and they try to sedate him, and he just keeps, like, trying to figure out where everyone is and asking for the rest of the team. And he's like, I need to talk to Colonel O'Neill. And they're like, you mean General O'Neill? And he's like, what?
Sure.
And then he passes out. But before he passes out, he gets one quick little glimpse of a lady. And that lady is obviously about to come back into the scene. But so Daniel wakes up. And he's like in a barracks room. So he just like tries to walk out. Like, I don't know if he just thought he had a really fucked up dream or something. He tries to walk out and realizes he's locked, and he's like, oh, not a dream. So he starts like banging on the door, and he's like, I need to talk to somebody. So who comes to talk to him but Catherine Langford? What a gem.
The one and only.
And then he's like, Catherine, and she's like, you know me? And he's like, yes, you know me. She's like, no, I really don't. And they just keep fighting about it. And
okay, but then before we get to that point,
yeah,
or we're at that point, she's like, I don't really know you, and she's saying all this, but then like 2 scenes later, she's like, I asked you to join our team ages ago and you kept saying no. And I'm like, so you do know him?
No, she knows of him. He asked if she knew who he was, and she was like, yes, you're Dr. Daniel Jackson, you're an Egyptologist, you're a historian, you're a linguist. Like, I know who you are, but I don't know you because you were kind of a dick last time I tried to talk to you.
Yeah.
And so she's like, how did you even get here? And he's like, what the fuck do you mean? I was here and then I left and now I'm back here. How did you get here? She's like, this is my base. And he's like, no, it's
like, this is my Stargate.
he's like, no, you retired. And she's like, literally, what are you talking about? And then he's like, you're supposed to be off living your happily ever after with Ernest.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, trigger warning. No one knows about Ernest. This is a problem.
Right.
So she's like, cool. I'm gonna go talk to General O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, dear General Sir, this man knows things that he's not supposed to know. I think we should talk to him. But as this is happening, we also see that Jack is very stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know why yet, but tense.
Yeah.
So they take Daniel to the briefing room and Jack is like, tell me everything you know about the gold. And he's like, everything I know is everything you know. Like, we learned it all together. We're partners. We've been doing this together. And he's like, nope. And Daniel's like, why? We went to Abydos. You were ready to he tells Jack all of the information we learned about Jack in the movie that no one would know about Jack, that even the rest of the team doesn't know about Jack, because we slowly find out that through the series that Jack has never told anybody anything about his life, apparently.
Right.
And so Jack's like, what? And he's like, where's Teal'c? And Jack's like, who the fuck is Teal'c? And he explains that there's a Jaffa working with them. And that's when Jack's like, get this motherfucker out of my base.
Yeah, he's like, get him out. He's done.
I don't want him. He's done. I don't care what he knows or how he knows it. Out. So, oh, no, then he says the stuff about Jack, so they let him talk because Jack's like, he doesn't know any of this stuff. But we find out that this universe's SG team has never been to Chulak, so that's why they don't know Teal'c.
Right.
And then Sam walks in, and Sam is not in the military in this universe. She is
the doctor.
She's a doctor. She's an astrophysicist. She's a babe. She's got long flowing hair, looking cute in her little skirt suit. And she comes in and she's like, General, we've lost Washington and Philadelphia. And
looks like you're playing Civilization Revolution.
Right. And Daniel's like, what does that mean? Catherine's like, go ahead, go look.
Mm-hmm.
And
dots everywhere.
Yes. So they look at a map that has red dots all over it, and some of the dots are entire lines.
Mm-hmm.
And every red dot represents a place that the Goa'uld have completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Fantastic. They're killing everyone. At this point, the estimate is about 1.5 billion people dead.
That's insane. More than COVID. FYI.
Yeah. So then we go to a scene where Daniel and Catherine are looking at all the artifacts that were in his bag, and he tells her everything that happened to him with the artifacts on the planet and how he got there and the weird mirror thing. And Catherine tells Daniel about the Genesis list, which is a short list of people that are basically going to be the new Genesis, the new Noah's Ark for when the Goa'uld destroy us and we go to a new planet.
Right. All very thrilling. Not terrifying at all.
No. The gate starts to activate and they hear it, and Daniel realizes that the symbols that he drew to show them where Chulak was, Jack is now going to send a nuclear weapon into.
Because why not?
Because why not? And he's like, these people are killing my people, I'm going to kill their people. Which, like, as a tactical military strategy, fine. As something that we would like to see our Jack O'Neill ever do.
Not fun.
No. So then Daniel and Sam do their thing where they just finish each other's sentences and bounce ideas off of each other and confirm that this is, in fact, an alternate reality.
Right.
And that when he touched the mirror on P3R233, that's how he got here. And we find out that this version of Sam has already been to P3R233 before it was destroyed by the Goa'uld.
Yeah.
So something happens and they all spread out to keep working on their Genesis plan, and Daniel just wanders off to the computer to look things up by himself, because apparently when we have an unknown person in a military base, we just like let them do whatever the fuck they want.
They know enough about you, they're allowed to use your computer, I guess.
Yeah. And so Daniel finds himself and figures out that he never left Egypt. But then he looks at the map and he is dead.
Egypt is gone.
Egypt is gone. Then the Goa'uld kill the president as he's on his way to be evacuated from the planet.
Right.
So here we are in the base. We are getting attacked off-world through the gate, trying to hold that in, and then a Goa'uld ship is landing on the mountain. And everybody's preparing for death. But then it turns out they're not going to just blow up the mountain. They're landing. They want to attack from the inside. Why? No idea. But sure, let's do it. So then they're trying to figure out what to do. They're making backup plans, and they're like, please, God, I hope that the off-world activation has a time limit, because then we'll be able to open the gate on our side.
Right.
Because right now we can't, because it's already activated. Mm-hmm. Apparently you can't have more than one wormhole in the same place at the same time.
Good information to have.
Correct. So then Catherine and Sam are like, while we're waiting, here is this transmission that we couldn't understand. And Daniel's like, oh, well, this is easy. They're speaking in whatever language. And they're like, how the fuck do you know that? He goes, well, I learned it on Abydos, but you guys wouldn't know that because you fucking blew it up. He didn't say it like that, but he thought it like that.
Like, this is what happens when you lead with weapons.
Yeah. Daniel does not like this reality very much.
No. I mean, to be fair, I also don't like this reality very much. Everyone's dead. So
there's only, well, everyone's dead, yes, but there are a few things that I did like better in this reality. Just not a lot. Really, there was only one thing that I liked better. And I'm sure it will take one guess to figure out what it was. But we'll get there.
Okay.
So then Sam, Catherine, and Daniel all work together, and they solve the code is giving them the Stargate coordinates for whatever planet the Destroyer of Worlds is coming from, which is hella good information to have.
Yep, sure is.
The off-world activation finally times out and stops. So the gate is free, and they're trying to dial out and get everyone into the beta planet or whatever before the Goa'uld can restart the gate, because then we also learn in this episode that if two people are trying to activate the gate at the same time, whichever one gets there first activates it, and
Yep.
it doesn't matter if you were in the middle or not.
Right.
So, fun fact. We get a scene of Jack just shooting at some people. Then that scene's over. The gate doesn't get encoded fast enough. The off-world activation happens. They're getting attacked again, and they think that means that they have to hold off the gold for 38 minutes.
Yes.
Which is a lot.
That is a lot and very specific.
Yes. But fun fact, the Jaffa leading the fight is, of course, Teal'c.
None other than.
So Jack finds out that they know the base address and is like, cool, we're going to send a bomb through, kill them all. And they're like, okay, get it. But to be fair, we only have like one chance to activate the gate, and we have like 5 places that could be legitimate plans right now. So like, let's think about this
Right
before we do it. And Daniel is like, here, let me play the security tapes that let me take the video tapes that I had that I was taking of P3R233 so that I can figure out what the base number for the gate is so that we have all 7 chevrons. And they can see the real SG-1 team in the video camera, and Jack and Sam are having some type of feeling about seeing themselves in an alternate reality.
Yeah.
Which was a really cool scene, and I really liked it, except for that it was in the middle of like all of this chaos, and it really should not. It really needed a different tone. It should have been the
beginning. That should have been more of like
how they figured out for sure.
Right, and how they started listening to Daniel because he had proof. Like,
right.
Yeah, I agree.
So then Daniel's like, I want to figure out how to prevent this attack from happening on my world. And so they get into this whole fight about like whose reality is more important and blah, 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 which I liked, except that I didn't like it coming right off the heels of Tin Man because it felt too much like the same fight that Jack just had. But again, the order is fucking weird for this season.
Yeah, but still, like, I wouldn't have even wanted 2 episodes with the same storyline this season because, I mean, they didn't know there were 10 seasons at this point, but there's so many seasons that why are we doing the same storyline or even the same type of storyline twice, especially in a row?
If we have to get rid of one, please, God, get rid of the Tin Man.
Yeah, no, keep this one, get rid of that one for sure. Because I feel like this one was more also, like, emotional because you think, like, this is actually them. They're not robots. They're just in a different dimension. And so it
doesn't have the same emotional feeling of like their memories and feelings like in their own consciousness, but like it is human beings.
Right. But it's still like, even though they're living in a different timeline, it's still Sam. It's still Jack. Like they're still the same people, real life, and they're going to die together.
Kind of.
I mean,
yeah. So Daniel's like, can we buy some time by talking to Teal'c?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Why not? That sounds like a good plan. Right. So Daniel is like, no. Literally, I know my plan's insane. Not even questioning that. What other choice do I have at this point? So they're like, okay, let's do it. And Jack says goodbye to everyone, says to wish him luck. And Sam goes to have a very intense goodbye with Jack. And Daniel looks at them funny. And Catherine goes, I take it in your reality, they're not engaged.
Not yet.
Which, that's the one thing that I like about surprise, just
that
over here simping over Jack and Sam.
I didn't even like keep that part of my like thought process.
Yes. Sam being not in the military so that she can actually date Jack and have them not be like him be her superior. I am all about that.
Right. Fair.
Let's keep that part.
Mm-hmm.
Hammond gives a commanding speech that we need to protect the gate. Just to give Hammond more things to do in this episode, apparently. Jack gives himself over to Teal'c and surrenders, and like it's like, I know who you are. And Teal'c's like, how the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Then we go back up to the gate room, and Hammond tells Sam to set the self-destruct button so that the base doesn't get into Goa'uld hands. Then we go back down to Jack and Teal'c, and Jack tells Teal'c Jack shows Teal'c the video, and Teal'c's like, I don't believe you. He's like, no, but like, I know everything about you. Like, I know what you did in this other universe. I know about Ryak. And Teal'c's like, motherfucker, you just killed Ryak. Ouch. Fair.
Like, fair, exactly. Like, I also would be mad. Again, stop leading with weapons. Start leading with discussions.
So then Teal'c kills Jack.
Yes, immediately.
Fantastic.
Right.
Catherine tells Daniel that she's helping him save his world because at least in his world, her and Ernest got to be together again. So in the grand scheme of the universe, they're even, which was tragic and beautiful.
I know. Yes.
Then we just have a bunch of hot mess short scenes where we see that the Jaffa kill Hammond, and then Sam is in a room full of Jaffa and she hands over the device and then is like, also, just kidding, fuck you, and blows herself up with a grenade, kills everybody. The Jaffa get to Catherine and they start to kill her, and then the bait, like the what is the word? It starts with a B. The blast door. That's the word I'm looking for. The blast door closes so that Daniel can't see Catherine dying and everybody's dead. And then Teal'c shows up and he's going to kill Daniel. And then Daniel makes it through the gate at the last second.
He also, we see Teal'c hesitate for just a moment.
Just a moment.
And it was all we needed to save Daniel. But it was like, you saw the Teal'c we know where he's like, you haven't actually done anything to my people. You're not part of the military. Are you someone that I should kill? And he decided to shoot him, but that split second where we saw him contemplate is what saved Daniel's life and showed us how Teal'c was
still Teal'c.
Yeah.
So then Daniel's back on P3R233. He touches the mirror and goes back to his own universe where Jack and Sam and Teal'c have still not left because they're still looking for Daniel, because of course they are, because they never would have left him.
Right.
And they find him, he's yelling for help, and they find him injured and they're freaking out and they need to get him back to Earth. And he just says, they're coming. And the episode ends.
That was an excellent cliffhanger.
It was.
So excited about that.
See, and that's the thing is so many things. We learned so many things about the gate. We have that huge cliffhanger. We finally are going back to the main Goa'uld fight. So while there were some things that were not great and the alternate reality being so close to the Tin Man was weird, and we don't have a good understanding of alternate realities in this universe yet. I get why maybe it could have been rated a little lower, but I'm cool with it being the highest rated of the season because I feel like it's the first time that I feel hyped for the next episode.
I think that's fair. I do agree. I think I'm fine with it being highest rated. I just think maybe everything else should have been rated a little lower. There were some episodes that were rated higher than I would have rated them.
There were also some episodes that were rated lower than I would have rated them, though.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the rating system of the sci-fi genre.
It's hard. And it's also, I think it's specifically hard with a lot of older sci-fi because there's the cult classic aspect to it where you have a lot of people rating things in terms of nostalgic desire for good classic sci-fi that's not horror.
And they're rating 10 years or 20 years later. I know I've been doing debates episodes and I go to get my notes off IMDb and then it's rate this episode. I'm like, okay. And I'm rating this 8 years after the show came out. I'm rating it from a different viewpoint of understanding the show and deciphering, or what am I trying to say? Delving into it and not just this level watching it. And so I'm sure there's a lot of that.
I'm sure.
I would imagine, especially from a nostalgic, especially from if this is the, you know, the real kicking off point, if this is what really gets us into the whole show, I understand why it's rated so high.
Yeah.
Like I'm not shocked by it.
Who would you like to punch?
Okay. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say Apophis because he has sent his Jaffa and Gaul to take over and kill everyone on the second planet. However,
This wasn't even in this episode.
he was in charge of all of this group. And I also kind of wanted to punch Daniel a little bit because even though it was necessary to learn all this information, had he never gone through the mirror, we never would have. Like, that planet was already destroyed, so they're not going to go back to that planet and go through that mirror. But now that he has, and they have the, I mean, he did take the code, I know all that, but it's just opening up for a world of hurt, I feel like.
Yeah, I would like to punch the alternate reality Teal'c.
That's fair.
But my reason isn't because he killed everyone.
Right,
It's
right.
because that fucking ponytail.
Okay. So I actually would have put him into more of the MVP category. He's not my MVP, but I would have put him in that category because we still saw him, like I had said at the end.
Yeah.
But you're right, that ponytail was god awful. And it was like he didn't have that when he was with Apophis, even in regular reality. Like, where did that even come from? It was tragic. It was tragic.
It was interesting, to say the least. It looked like Jasmine's hair from Aladdin, but like glued to his head.
Yes. Yes.
So I would like to punch Teal'c just because of that ponytail.
Gosh. Yes. I'm with you 100%.
Who is your MVP?
So I think my MVP is, I did struggle a bit because I felt very split on Daniel. I was like, do I want to punch him? Is he my MVP? I don't know, because he's done a lot. He's learned a lot. He kind of made things happen, blah, blah. But I decided to pick for my MVP, alternate reality Sam, because she was very logical. She didn't react like everyone else, like overreacted anytime anything happened, but she like took everything in. And then at the very end, she very emotionally sacrificed herself to save whatever little bit of the Stargate SG-1 or whatever that she could. I just really loved her.
I picked alternate reality Catherine for much the same reasons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Makes sense.
yeah. We do have some trivia. If I didn't close that page. Oh, LOL, I did.
You know, it happens sometimes.
It happens. One of them is the fact that there was a MacGyver episode, also called Therefore, There But by the Grace.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first episode of the series to feature an alternate reality. Shocking, I know, but that does kind of then lead to the spoilerific reality that this will not be the last episode of the series to feature an alternate reality. But it's a 10-year-long sci-fi show. I would be surprised if there wasn't. If
there wasn't more, I would have been like, who were the writers and what were they doing? Like, they were sleeping on a very easy and or big sci-fi like element. You know?
The second and third shots of Michael Shanks as Daniel Jackson in the opening credit are both from this episode.
Nice.
As of 2019, when trivia was added, and I think it is still true, this was the last time Elizabeth Hoffman appeared on screen.
Ever?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. What did she do? Did she go home to Ernest?
Oh, the character? Yeah, the character went home to Ernest.
No, I meant, does she have her own Ernest that she went home to?
Oh, like the actress?
Why did she leave TV?
Well, she's 150,000 years old.
Okay.
No, just kidding. That is an exaggeration. But quite literally, she is 95 right now.
Okay, but this was like 20 years ago. She was like in her early 70s. Betty White was still acting until she died. Elizabeth Hoffman could have kept it going.
I'm sure she could have, but like, she didn't want to, apparently.
No, that's fine too. That's fair.
There was another trivia that the term quantum mirror was also used to refer to a device to travel to parallel universes in the show In Another Life, which was broadcast only 4 days after this episode. In Another Life was co-written by Brad Wright, the co-creator of Stargate SG-1.
Makes sense.
Furthermore, The Outer Limits and Stargate aired on Showtime at this time.
Makes sense.
The opening and closing scenes were shot at the High Voltage Resonance Test Set owned by the Powitech Company near Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is my trivia.
Excellent. I love it. I love it.
If you have ever been to Powitech, just kidding, that would probably be no one.
If you've ever been through a quantum mirror, please reach out to us.
No, but like if you have, please
Yeah.
reach out to us because that sounds fascinating.
Even if you haven't, you want to pretend like you have, I will take some, what are they called? Oh my gosh. What are the Reddit stories that are not real? Creepypasta. I will take some creepypasta style sci-fi stories.
I might actually just believe you.
I would do both probably.
You can email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com, and you can follow us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can also follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me at CECloud13.
And we will see you all on Thriller Thursday.
See ya.
Bye.